Welcome to the 9/8 Central podcast, where we talk about growing a business, working in media, and building a team that we love. I am John Godwin, your host, the production leader at 9/8 Central, and I am joined today by Nicole Daniel, who has just joined our team this week. Man,
Monday was my first day.
Wow. It was such a long, busy week that it feels like you've been here for longer than that, like 2 or 3 weeks.
I have been around here for a long time.
You have.
But
that's
officially
correct.
full-time. Yeah,
officially full-time.
Monday.
And Nicole is our junior editor / podcast producer. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. Yes, you got it right.
Okay, cool.
So
between Nicole and I, we both run most of the podcast shows and do a lot of the editing as well. Mm-hmm. So she and I are talking together about 5 mistakes that people make when making a podcast.
Yes.
Some of these we learned the hard way. Mm-hmm. And so we're just going to share with y'all these points here. So I'll start us off with the first one, okay? So one of the mistakes that people make is poor audio quality.
Yes.
So what can you tell me not to do? What not to do?
What not to do. And it's important to get this right, because that's what a podcast is.
Right,
audio.
It's audio.
Yeah, so if you don't have that down, then you're in trouble. But so make sure you have a good mic.
Yes.
Make sure you invest in one. They can be expensive. I mean, you don't have to go crazy.
You don't have to go crazy, but don't get the cheapest one.
Don't get the cheapest one.
Don't get a mic. And do not use your computer microphone.
No. Stay away from that, please. Yes.
The ones we use here are Rode Procasters. I was just double checking. I was pretty sure that's what it was. Rode Procasters are great mics. That's just what we use, but there's tons of other mics.
Yeah. So make sure you do your research and you invest in a good mic. And it's also important on where you record. You want to make sure you are in a soundproof room as best as possible. You don't want a lot of echo, because our voice can bounce off the walls. Mm-hmm. So you don't want echo.
Or you don't want the room to be a loud room, like things going on. Like if it was like an office where people are working on the phones and stuff, you wouldn't want that's not ideal.
No, make sure it's in a quiet place.
Quiet place, but also prepared for audio. Yeah. Like you don't want those sounds bouncing off walls and stuff. Like the best you can. Like if you walk into a room and you clap really loud, did it reverberate?
Yes. Yeah, that could be a great test to make sure you're in a good spot to record. And it's really how to record. Mm-hmm. What softwares you use, that can really make it or break it for an audio. And there are a lot of great free options out there that a lot of podcasters use. So, you don't need the most expensive with all the bells and whistles. So, I don't know if there was anything else that I missed on that question.
And then, so good microphones, a good location to record, and then also knowing how, like, proper mic etiquette. You want to be close to your mic. Usually what we tell people, because every time we have a podcast guest, we always tell them, hey, we tell them to stay about 6 inches close to your mic, kind of like how we are now. Mm-hmm. And usually they're like, wait, how far away? Is it over here?
Yep.
Is it over here? So we tell them, do this little cowabunga move. Yep. Pinky to thumb.
Right
boom.
Here.
So about right there is the ideal space.
Yeah.
So sometimes, if they drift, hopefully they can check themselves. Yep.
Always stay in this range.
Yeah. So that's good. And then also another thing to think about is, when they turn, I may turn to the camera lens like this. Here's a bad example. Don't do this. Hey, how's it going? And then you come back and it sounds really good, Try to, if you're swiveling, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. And it happens,
it does.
It's totally fine.
Sometimes you get caught up in the moment or the conversation and
you don't
think about it.
You just want to move around. But
exactly. So that's just something to keep in mind and to try to train yourself to do is to stay close to your microphone as well.
It's definitely a mental game.
Yeah, for sure.
But once you practice that enough, it will be second nature.
That's right. What's another mistake that people make?
Another one is, let me get my list again. Another one is asking for sponsors too soon.
Yes. So, a lot of times people want to make money off their podcast, which is not a crime. That's a good thing to do. Like if you can make money off your podcast. And so usually how people do that, they have people who sponsor their shows. And to get sponsors, it's not more than likely you're going to have to do some cold calling or reach out to people like, hey, would you like to sponsor my podcast?
Yep.
Unless you're just hugely successful from the get-go and people are like, please, can I sponsor you? But more times than not, you're going to be trying to get them. So the mistake is doing it too early. So if let's say, hey, I got this show I want to do, I'm going to try to get sponsors before I even get started. That's a huge no-no. People are going to be, more times than not, they're going to say, no.
Right.
You have nothing to show for. Why would I invest all this money if I don't know that people are going to be listening? You need to establish a show, establish an audience and a community. You need to be able to show them metrics and analytics and be like, hey, I have 10,000 listeners every week, which would be awesome. You can get sponsors with less than that, but that's just like an example. Just like, I have 10,000 listeners. Are you interested in sponsoring? Like 10,000 people are going to hear the ad that we have to say about your product. So, that's more an incentive for them to say yes. So, try to hold off, try to build your community first.
Oh, it's hard.
It is.
You want to start right away. But
exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. Like you said, it's an investment for them. And, if they're your sponsor, then you're carrying their brand in a sense. You're a salesperson for them.
Exactly. You are.
So it's like you want to make sure, or they want to make sure that you're going to be doing a good job. But at the same time, you want to make sure you're representing them well. So waiting to make sure you have a bigger following is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another mistake is, let's see here, we had lack of consistency.
Oh, yes. Lack of consistency.
Would you like to touch on that?
Yes. So one part in lack of consistency is when you post your episodes. You want to make sure that your audience knows when to expect another episode. So, if you're going to be posting once a week and that works for you, that's fine. Just make sure it's the same day, same time.
Absolutely.
Your audience knows if you're going to be, posting one episode this week, 2 episodes next week, one's at midnight, one's at, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's just not going to work. And you're going to lose followers if you do that.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and touching on that, life's busy. Sometimes, you may post every week and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, life caught up. I got too busy. I didn't post for 3 weeks. So the issue with that is you're going to lose your audience. There's times where I've been listening to a podcast and they posted every single week. And then they started posting one every maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I never knew when the next one was going to drop. And it was always a random time of day. And I don't know what it is. It's a psychological thing. I was just like, I don't really care. I don't want to keep up with this anymore. And I unfollowed them. I was just kind of like, I don't know what it is, but
Right.
So
you
I unfollowed them.
You don't want to work for listening to a podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's super important. There's some that I have on my playlist. I know they come out on Monday. I have this one to listen to. On Tuesday, I got these 2 that come out. I may listen to one of them Tuesday and one of them later in the week. But I know that I know to prepare. It's weird.
Right.
So that's just how an audience is.
Were you
about to say something? Sorry.
Yeah. And I was going to say, starting a podcast, you invest a lot of time, especially starting. So making sure you said, you know that you need to set a lot of time aside to research your topics, research your guest, invite guests on your show, whatever that may involve. You need to make time for that. And scheduling goes along with that as well.
Absolutely,
so, just making sure okay, this week or, this month, I may have an hour each week to record one podcast or one episode. That's fine. Just make sure you schedule in advance and, that will help you in the long run. It's going to be tricky starting at first, and that's okay. Like you said earlier, that's how you learn.
So if you don't have enough time in your week to sit down and however much prep time it takes for you to do an episode, get a guest lined up if you're a podcast that has guests on, or if you do a lot of research and it's educational, if you cannot prepare enough to make your episode happen that week, every single week, then you need to not do it once a week. Do it every other week or once a month. Just find whatever the flow is for what your schedule, your life schedule is. Make sure you have enough time to prepare so that you do not lose consistency. If you lose consistency, you lose your audience. And the whole reason of having a podcast is to grow your community and grow your audience.
Right.
So,
Yeah. This isn't college. You can't.
Exactly. And life does happen. There are times where it's like, oh man, this came up. I literally was not able to. In order to combat that, a great thing to do is to build what am I trying to say? Like build a reservoir of like episodes you've already recorded, perhaps.
Right.
You know,
yes.
like
You want
say,
to bank episodes.
There you go. That's
there
the
we
word.
go. Yes.
Bank. That's the great word.
Bank episodes.
I could not think of it.
Bank episodes ahead of time. You know, you want to just take a couple hours on Saturday. Go ahead and, you know, get those in the bank. That way, when you are running tight, you know, if you're running tight one week and you're like, oh, I didn't get to record one. You have one. Exactly. You can go ahead and post.
You had like 4 or 5 in the bank. That's like golden.
A lot of our clients bank their episodes.
They
and
do.
That really,
it
helps them and it helps us.
Absolutely.
When we schedule.
Yeah. Very, very good point.
Yeah. So another mistake with starting a podcast is not posting your episodes on all podcast platforms and channels.
Yes.
So why is that a mistake, John?
So it's a mistake because, and the reason why people wouldn't, you know, is because you're thinking, I only listen to Apple Podcasts, so I'm only going to put it on Apple.
Yeah.
First of all, not everybody has an iPhone. Some people, you don't have an iPhone. You use Android, right?
Yep,
so,
Android.
You know, you have to be able to be more accessible to everybody. So we, you know, it may not be the medium that you personally live on, but put it on Apple Podcasts, put it on Spotify, put it on Google Podcasts. Amazon does podcasts now for people who don't know. So iHeartRadio, I don't know, there's a lot of others. Spreaker, can't think of any others, but there's a ton of them out there. Put it everywhere so that people can find your podcast.
Yeah, and I think it overwhelms individuals who are wanting to start a podcast. I think it overwhelms them on how many platforms there are out there.
Yes.
So you're like, well, why do I need to post them on all of them when you know maybe these top 3 platforms are the biggest ones?
Right. Yeah.
You know, but you never know. There are those couple who, you know, listen to Amazon podcasts. So.
And also to combat being overwhelmed with that is we use, there's lots of different platforms, but we use one called Simplecast. And using that, you know, you schedule your podcast to go out. You set up ahead of time the distribution, which takes some time when you're prepping your podcast onto all the different platforms. But then you upload your podcast one time and it blasts them to all of the channels for you. It does all the work.
Easy, yes.
So you don't even have to think about it. You just set it up one time and then you're good to go. So there's lots of other platforms that do that as well.
Yeah.
So our final mistake that we have for people is not having a specific theme for their podcast. So why is it important that a podcast would have a specific theme or, let's say, a niche that they talk about on their show?
Well, it's all about building a community. So, you know, your audience found you. They want to listen to you because you're talking about a specific thing.
Right.
Maybe that theme is a wide range. And, you know, you can talk about little things underneath there, but it's all under the same theme.
Right.
So, you know, you're building a community. You know, if one week you're talking about, I don't know, dolphins, and the next week you're talking about hamburgers, you know, no one...
You're like, wait a minute, I thought I was following the dolphin podcast.
Yes, I wanted the dolphin.
Why are you talking about hamburgers?
Right, yeah. You know, you're going to lose your followers.
Exactly.
So, you know, they're there for a specific reason. And, you know, like I said, as community, they share that same interest with you. So they want to hear your perspective on it.
And I've seen some podcasts that are very general, that are successful.
Yeah.
And it can be done. However, maybe their general theme is, I don't know, maybe it's telling stories. So it's like stories of what happened that week in their lives. So it's very general and they talk about whatever the heck they want. But it's like, that is their theme, is being that general and just talking about their lives. You know, it's not like all of a sudden they're a movie review podcast. That's all they talk about. So anyway.
Yeah, we're talking about if you're switching from one theme to a completely different theme.
Right.
Yeah,
so whatever your podcast is about, if you haven't made your podcast yet, you know, you need to establish what it is going to be about and then stick with it.
Yeah.
If you want to go another direction, I suggest making more than one podcast. It's okay to have more than one podcast. Yeah. Some of our clients have multiple shows because they touch on different things, and that's totally fine. So,
that's totally.
Well, I think that wraps up our mistakes.
Yeah.
Which there are plenty of more mistakes. This is just 5 of them. We were just touching on a few. We could probably do a whole nother episode on some more.
Yeah.
But we'll end it there.
I think just the main important thing is just talk about what you're passionate about.
Yes,
you know, these
absolutely.
Podcast is a great platform. You know, if you're interested in one thing, more than likely someone else is going to be out there interested in the same thing, or multiple people. Yeah, you'll be surprised.
Want to hear what your niche is.
Yeah. So just make sure like it's a creative outlet and just a place to talk about your passion and, you know, your desire and your interest. And like we said, it's all about building a community. So
absolutely,
other people will be interested in that.
That's true. Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah.
So before we close out this episode, what are you digging this week?
Digging this week.
Yeah.
So this has been around for a while, but I was just introduced to boba tea.
Okay.
So I'm not really a tea drinker, but there's a place, or the place I was introduced to is really close by the office, like 5 minutes away. So it's really good. Now that it's getting warmer, I'm really tempted to just swing my car by there, pick up one on the way to the office. But
it's so good. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also actually digging a tea related thing.
Okay. I was going to ask you, what are you digging this week?
Yes. So on a previous episode, I mentioned I was getting more into hot tea.
Okay.
I love sweet tea, and I've always liked hot tea, but I never got consistently into drinking it until like the past few weeks.
Okay.
And the more specific thing I've been digging is something I made fun of before. And I knocked it till I tried it. Was sleepy tea, like sleepy time tea.
Oh, yes.
So it's like chamomile and lavender.
Yes.
And I always made fun of people who drank it. I thought it was so stupid.
Yep.
And then I tried it, and I was so relaxed and had one of the best nights of sleep.
There we go.
And so I drink it almost every night now. It's only been a few days, but I'm like,
you're already addicted.
I'm a different person.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it is so
good.
nice.
You wake up refreshed.
I highly recommend. Yeah.
Great night of sleep. So, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can start a podcast about tea.
A tea podcast.
I don't know. I wouldn't be good at that.
It wouldn't be we'd run out of things.
We would. One episode will be done. Yeah. We'll leave that for someone else.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on this episode with me.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you all for listening to the 9/8 Central podcast. I hope that you will review us on, whatever platform you're listening to. It really helps us if you review and leave comments and whatnot. You can follow us on social media. Our website is 98c.org. And social media, we are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. We're also on YouTube. So, if you're not looking at us and you're listening to us only, we're available visually on Facebook and YouTube. So check us out.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
This is my first time hosting.
Yay.
And Nicole's first podcast.
I know.
Welcome to the 9/8 Central podcast, where we're talking about growing. Where are we going to be talking about? Oh, we're live?
Oh, dear.
Well, good morning, Greenville.